So let's talk a little bit about the microbiome and how probiotics play a role in a healthy microbiome. So the microbiome is essentially all the bacteria that line the GI tract, and there's about 100 trillion different bacteria. In fact, there are 10 times more bacteria in our GI tracts than cells in the body. And if you think about the genetic contribution or the genes, there's actually 100 times more genetic information from those bacteria than our own genetic information. So in some ways, we're walking around as containers for these bacteria. But these bacteria play a very important role in our health. First of all, they produce short-chain fatty acids from fermenting fiber. And short-chain fatty acids are very important in different areas of health. Some types of short-chain fatty acids actually that are produced in the colon are anti-cancer. In other words, that's the substrate cells that line the colon called the colonocytes need to be able to function, and short-chain fatty acids produced in that area actually decrease the risk for colon cancer. So those short-chain fatty acids have a very important role for the cells themselves. And also the types of bacteria and the health of those bacteria play a role in whether or not somebody develops leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability. So increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut can increase inflammation. It can increase the risk for autoimmune conditions. It can increase the likelihood that a person develops even diabetes or chronic conditions or chronic diseases. So the health of the GI tract and the microbiome plays a role in more areas than just GI health. There are different species, of course, of bacteria in the GI tract, and they thrive on different foods. For example, the Prevotella species thrives on carbohydrates, Bifidobacteria thrives on fiber, Bacteroidetes on some types of fats. In fact, the diversity of the microbiome is key. The diverse the species, the healthier a person is going to be. And part of the way that you help diversify your microbiome is by the types of probiotics you take, but also the types of fiber that you eat and prebiotics. So very important to understand that the probiotic is a seed, but you need to feed the seed what it needs to thrive. And that's where fiber comes in. So we're talking about fiber from fruits and vegetables, from fermented foods such as sauerkraut or kefir or kombucha if you happen to like kombucha. Very important to help the organisms that should be there thrive. So the types of probiotics I use in my practice, which I use with patients who have immune problems because they can help with immune problems and allergies, helping with any GI system issues like lactose intolerance or gas or bloating, constipation or diarrhea. The probiotics that I use two main ones. One is Ultra ProBio Spectrum, and that's a full spectrum probiotic containing 30 billion organisms per capsule. 7 different organisms in that formula, all of which have been researched for their effectiveness and ability to colonize the GI mucosa and help with symptoms. And the second one we use is something called ProBioMax 350. Now that's a very potent probiotic. I reserve that for patients who've either gone through recent antibiotics or who have significant GI complaints or perhaps small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because it's 350 billion organisms per packet, which is a very large dose, and it contains 18 strains from 13 different species. So there's a huge diversity of bacteria. All of them have been studied for their effectiveness and their viability in terms of helping with conditions. But one of the areas that I think is most exciting in terms of the research on the microbiome and potentially probiotic supplementation is in obesity, because we know that twins, and I'm an identical twin, which is part of why this research is interesting to me, an obese twin has a less diverse microbiome than a lean twin. And we know from mice studies that if we take bacteria from obese mice and we put it into lean mice, they become fat. Well, why would that be? Some of the potential mechanisms are that the bacteria that are in obese mice extract more calories from food, so therefore they can become obese that way. They also alter cravings and mood and behavior. And this is very interesting. Those bacteria secrete neurotransmitters. And I simplify things for my patients by saying you can either have fat bugs or skinny bugs. And if you want skinny bugs, you need to take your probiotic and you need to feed the skinny bugs what they like. And what do skinny bugs like, or bacteria that tend to promote leanness? They like fiber. They like fruits and vegetables, they like nuts and seeds, They like whole grains. They don't like saturated fat, trans fat, and sugar. In fact, the fat bugs thrive on that. So when you make a decision to eat something, are you feeding the fat bugs or the skinny bugs? And you want to be feeding those skinny bugs all the time and every day.